Hi, I'm Professor Seth Ornberg, and I'm here with my good friend and colleague, Professor Rona Kaufman, who joined me on a mission to Israel, and we are here. It is sunset in Tel Aviv after a mission to Israel. Rona, do you want to share any reflections about what we did here and what your experience was like in Israel?
Hey, yeah, I would love to. Wow. This trip was incredibly meaningful, incredibly impactful. We met with so many inspiring and inspiring people and compelling stories. And I think that, first of all, what I was especially kind of moved by is how many professors came on this trip who had never been to Israel before, and how many professors came on this trip who weren't Jewish, and that they wanted to come on this trip and to learn about these really complex issues that if you're not actively trying to find truth on these topics, you're just being indoctrinated by propaganda that's being spread across the US. So that was really, really powerful to me, that this group of people was willing to come here during this really difficult time to learn about the conflict and what's happening. And I think, of course, the hardest moments were when we went to the South and visited. For me, it was when we visited Nir Oz, which is the army base where the Tatzpaniot, who are the girls who were watching the border cameras, were murdered so brutally. And we went to Nova, and of course we went to the kibbutz and saw all the horrors, and that just was a lot. And yeah, it was a really, really powerful trip, learning about the international laws that apply to this conflict and understanding how they're being used and also how they're being weaponized to prevent Israel from defending itself against what is truly evil and a power that is seeking not just to destroy the Jewish people in Israel and probably the Jewish people across the world, but individual human rights and liberal values and democracy and enlightenment and civilization.
It's a lot that's at risk.
It was a lot, yeah. So
And-
it was an incredible trip.
On a personal level, you have a daughter who's in the Israeli army, right?
Mhm.
Did that have any impact on how you viewed some of what you saw during this experience?
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, that's why I think for me going to Nir Oz, that army base was so hard. My daughter's army base, her training base, was in Zikim, which was also attacked on October 7th, not successfully, thank God. 8 soldiers were killed on that base, and she was not on that base. She was on a different base at that time, but she had served on that base and trained on that base for 8 months. And the bases that were attacked in the Gaza envelope and the communities that were attacked in the Gaza envelope, just knowing that she had spent so many months there and was that vulnerable without my realizing it was really hard.
Yeah. So now that we've gone through this and, you're familiar with Israel, but a lot of people aren't, you also saw some people who were new to Israel and saw something. For the people that couldn't go on this trip, for the students, for the faculty, for the people who might be watching this, is there any message you want to share for them as to how to maybe relate to what is, I think, a pretty complicated seeming situation?
I wish people would pause. That's my number one wish, is that people would simply pause. That there is a frenzy out there that I believe is being instigated by some really by some people with some really bad intentions, and there is no question that war is horrific, and the horrors that we see during war are horrific, and it is so natural to have a really visceral emotional response and want to condemn war always. And yet sometimes war is just and necessary. And if there ever was a just and necessary war, this is it. And so I just wish that people would pause and wouldn't just follow. It seems like they're following blindly, like especially on these college campuses where you have people chanting words in a language they don't know about a place they couldn't find on a map. and about people and tribes that they understand nothing about. It's very upsetting, and it's really dangerous, you know, for any of us who care about individual human rights, for any of us who care about women's rights, for any of us who care about religious freedom, about indigenous rights, about children's rights. If you care about those things, then you must believe that Israel needs to be able to defend itself against an enemy that wants to wipe out all of those things.
Wow. It was so good to be on this trip with you.
So good to be on this trip with you too. I'm so glad you were here and invited me.
Thank you for coming on this journey.
Thank you. Thank you.